Hello. For some reason, I'm in a really good mood today, so that's good. Generally, when you stream at this time of day, you don't get all the weird sort of political comments getting brought up constantly, which is nice as well. So, this morning or this early afternoon, I went to post a couple of things to some of my donators and people I chat with online, which is quite nice. So, I sent one of them an S10, and another one I sent Hype a PDRM82. So, hopefully, they get those all right and like them. But, it's quite good because that clears up a bit of space here, because obviously, as you can see, there's loads and loads of shit here. And it goes to people who've supported me as well, which is nice. So, yeah, I'm in a good mood. Hope everybody else is all right. It's a very windy day here today. Windy in the sense of trees bending over, kind of windy. I was going to go for a walk after this stream, but I think it started raining now, so I might not. But yeah, it's the old civil defense version of the Swiss M18 helmet. All right, Stalker Artom. All right, Fox Sickness. All right, Stug. Yeah, I probably need to adjust the strap to be ever so slightly tighter on this. But then again, saying that, it means if I wear it with a gas mask, it still fits the mask with this sort of strap system. Oh, thank you very much, Relapsely Panda. I really appreciate it. I don't think this is Paddington's hat. At least I've never seen Paddington wearing a Swiss M18 helmet. Yeah, I've got two. Well, I've got technically 4 Swiss helmets. I've got this one. I've got 2 M18s, one with a liner, one without a liner, like the standard, steel ones. And I've also got a Swiss M71 helmet. All right, Oddball. All right, Nitrous. All right, Wandering Dashhund. What time zone are you in where it's 3 a.m.? Is that Australia or somewhere? No worries, Nitrous. You have to do what you have to do, don't you? Sometimes I don't watch videos on certain channels for ages and then I binge them. Yeah, that's the problem, man. You could never use them like ballistically when they're old and restored, but they're good for looking good, aren't they? And being a bit of history. Yeah, it's because it is a Stowhound, basically, Marcus, especially the grey one. Let me get that. Hang on. I need to tidy all this shit up again earlier because where I got a load of the masks down off that shelf, which you can't see there. Yeah, so that's the original grey steel one rather than the aluminium one. What time zone are you in, Relapsy Panda, somewhere in the US? I don't know if it would be East Coast or West Coast with that sort of time, but yeah. This is the one that's really Stowhound-like, just chunky Stowhound. But these are actually way better than the German helmets in terms of steel quality. How do you mean is Normandy good for helmets? D-Day was obviously in Normandy, but I don't know if there's any surplus shops in Normandy. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream. Yeah, I can see that. The one I was thinking looked quite interesting recently. Which helmet was it? I know that the Swiss M71 helmet, because it's basically this but with very small compact ridges, looks like both the American sort of in Fallout 7, not Fallout 76, Fallout New Vegas, the NCR Rangers. Weirdly, although I think they're meant to have M1 helmets, they actually look more like they've got Swiss M71 helmets on with their gas masks. And also that Swiss M71 does look a bit medieval in the, in the sense it just looks like a more modernized medieval helmet. I'm not really into SCP stuff. I think it was cool when it was a lot more primitive. There was only a few good SCPs written, and it was more interesting. But SCP is a bit too mainstream and Mary Sue sort of now. I hope you come out negative, Relapsey. I had mine the other day, and I came out negative, but I didn't really have many symptoms. For me, it was just because I'd been in contact with somebody who might have had it, so I had to get a test. Sounds nice, Joshua. Is it nice and sunny where you are? I think it started raining here typically now. There's one helmet that's a lot more Darth Vader-y than this helmet, and that's the Iraqi Fire Daheen helmet, or whatever it's called. But yes, this one is quite Star Wars-y looking. But, it came out about 60 years before Star Wars did, because it was the back end of World War I, the Swiss designed this. Obviously, the Swiss didn't fight in World War I because they were a neutral country, but they did look at World War I and say, we need some good gear in case anybody tries to invade us. Yeah, but it means that you can hear pretty well, and it still gives you good protection. Yeah, it's interesting steel. It's very Mangalese steel, as you can see from the texture on it. It's also because I think they've done that like kind of sawdust type layer on it that's then painted over. I don't know why they did that with a load of helmets, but it's quite a common thing to do. It literally can be about anything Stalker as long as it's not an offensive, divisive subject. So if you want to talk about Geiger counters, gas masks, helmets, whatever, just don't spam questions. I've used a typewriter before, Nitrous. We might have one in the attic because my grandparents had an old typewriter they gave me when I was quite young. You know, it wasn't like a really cool model or anything. It was just, you know, a pretty standard typewriter from like the 70s or something. So that's somewhere. So I've used typewriters before, but obviously they're completely obsolete with computers, aren't they? And Word, where you can just go back and delete stuff. My main issue I had with typewriters is when you're typing, and then sometimes some letters look thicker than others, depending on how much ink it's picked up off the ribbon and how hard you slam the key down. I've never played that game, Brandon, so I don't know. MP5s are far better, Matej. Well, that's a very interesting question, just Nick, because you suppose you're going to have to think morally something like Caesar's Legion are pretty awful. They're kind of like ISIS, aren't they? But Caesar's Legion hasn't spread itself too thin like the NCR has. Also, the NCR is a bureaucratic mess. In some ways, I'd say Mr. House, because if he's kept New Vegas, you know, working for a long time, he's probably going to keep it working. But if you're saying more about going back to, like, you know, stuff not being screwed completely, I'd say probably NCR. But the NCR is still like very bureaucratic and kind of, you know, useless. I've not used the Gamma varmint and Brandon. If you saw a PMG for £8, I'd get it, yeah. Especially with the prices of masks at the moment. Swiss M18s are good, but the liners are very primitive. Also, the straps ripped off of this one, because the issue is with the straps on these that they're kind of old leather. So you end up running into the issue of just the straps die pretty quickly, you know, from taking it off and on, because as soon as there's a bit of tension on it, it's kind of pulling on old leather. But yeah, they're all right, but they've got very primitive liners. If you upgraded the liner, it'd probably be quite comfy. But again, there's no use in them compared to like modern Kevlar and thermoplastic helmets. But they're cool looking. Sadly, though, Nitrous, the Legion campaign, when you do it on, I wouldn't really say campaign, but, you know, Legion questline is a bit not fleshed out, because I think it was one of the things Obsidian didn't get enough time to finish before the game was released. So you'll notice that as you go through the Legion campaign compared to like NCR or Mr. House, there's a lot less quests. The best modern helmet I've got is the Virtus one. It's pretty much the same thing as an American ECH, which are basically thermoplastic helmets, not Kevlar. MP5 compared to the Uzi, Brandon, just because there's so many MP5 variants and they were used for so long. Uzis are bloody cool as well, but... which one, Fox Sickness? If you mean this one, this would still protect you from debris fine, and maybe 9mm it would stop. But again, with this age of the helmets, they're not going to be as good as they were back in the day at protecting. Especially if you think that back in sort of post-World War I period, these helmets were newer, so they hadn't aged, you know, so they were better in that regard, and 9mm cartridges were lower velocity, you know, or less foot-pounds of energy, because cartridges and guns have kind of got stronger over time. So, yeah, back in the day, these have been more effective than they would be now, but, you know, if you had it on and there was a bit of brick or whatever flying around, it would still definitely stop your head getting caved in. Sadly, I do not have an Airboss LBM. That is a Canadian C4, and I believe Airboss did make some of these. Yeah, that's just a standard Canadian C4. I suppose this is going to be the wrong size bit, isn't it? But yeah, it's not going to fit on there. I was just wondering if that Russian exhale valve would fit on there. But yeah, so this is like the love child between an S10 and an M40. It's a pretty cool mask. I've done videos cleaning a load of different masks, AH. The Canadian C3 is literally the same as all of those. Just wipe it down with, you know, like a bit of disinfectant on a cloth. There's nothing special to cleaning it. What, because they're very easy to mass produce and salted without very good resources? Alright, if you want to see inside it tin, there you go. Oral nasal cup, eyepieces, drinking tube. It's got a pretty good field of view actually on this mask. Let's just get that over there. There you go. Yeah, the rain's coming down very heavily now, so I won't be going for a walk after this stream. That's a bit of a shame. I wanted to get a bit of exercise today, and do like a mile or two walk, but if it's going to be raining and muddy, I won't bother. What is the movie called? Tenet, as in T-E-N-E-T. Let me Google it. So it's a film that came out in 2020. I've not even heard of it. Oh, so directed by Christopher Nolan, so it's quite famous. But no, I've not seen it. So there's a gas mask in it, is it? I'm just going to search Tenet gas mask and see if I can see a picture of a bit of a gas mask. One looks like, from the side, I think a Forshida, and the other looks like an MSA Millennium. So if you Google MSA Millennium, that's definitely one of them. I've not got a Millennium, but I've got an MCU2P. The other one looks like a Pascat helmet combined with a Forshida. I don't know if it's the A4 or F2 variant, and they've blacked the lenses out. I can show you the Forshida, because I've got that in this room. Hang on. I definitely need to tidy a load of this stuff up later, because as I said, it's just getting more and more. At least I think the Forshida's in this room. Bear with me. It might have been one of the ones I actually moved the Forshida saying that, so it might not be in this room, and in that case I can't show it you. It might have been one that I set up as in like a grab and go kind of situation. No, sadly I can't show you the Forshida because it's not where I thought it was. So sorry about that. But yeah. But yeah, it is a Forshida looking at the picture. Wear a respirator, shed on fire. Make sure you wash your hands, avoid touching your face. Be careful, obviously, the more things you touch, like press stops, especially, those things you buzz to stop, the bus on a certain stop. I imagine there'll be a lot of germs on them. So I'd say just carry around, a good strong sanitizer gel with you. Wear your mask, avoid touching your face, and just make sure now and again you clean your hands. All right, Hope. Yeah, I'll be on probably another 45 minutes or so. I don't have either of those helmets, so I can't really recommend one over the other. I like this Chanka helmet, whichever one that is. Yeah, I've not got a proper American M1 nitrous, but I've got I think it's either a Norwegian or a Danish M1 clone that's pretty much identical to a US M1. And I've also got a French M51 helmet, which is totally not an M1, we swear, haha, which is this one. So yeah, this is the French rip-off of an M1, the M51 helmet. The shape of it is slightly more, I think it's like more vertical, where I think the M1 is more like that shape. I'd have to put them next to each other to compare them. But yeah, this is the French rip-off of an M1. But this is the one that has the really nice liner, because the one I bought was cheap and didn't come with a liner. So I ordered from France the late generation vehicle crew liners for them, which is the one that is kind of like a rubbery plastic, and it's actually a really nice helmet liner. So then obviously that just holds in via friction. As in a military one insulted with a drinking tube, rather than just a standard MF11. I don't actually know. You might have to ask Hype or Marcus, because they'd probably be more aware of what the prices for those would be. But yeah, there's something very cool looking about the old USM ones, but I suppose that's just because they're famous from World War II, Korea, Vietnam. You know, they were kind of just a Western helmet for years and years and years. Well, the inner helmet isn't anything ballistically rated. It's just basically designed to protect your head from getting smashed. You know. Right. What country are you in, Trade Trail? In the UK at the moment, Prepper's Shop has loads and loads of ex-police body armor in with the panels in it for like £40. So ones like this. This is obviously one you wear under a vest, well, under your like jacket. They've got the overt and covert ones, and they're all around £40. And they've got some like very good armors for like £100, but literally eBay for everything surplus Dominion. Yeah, if you're not in the UK, I'd say use your eBay or eBay equivalent and just look for ex-police vests, because in general, most police forces are issued with a combined, basic Kevlar vest for protection from pistol rounds and a stab-proof layer to protect them from knives. Right, if you're in the USA trade trail, I don't know any specific sites, but I'm sure on US eBay you can buy ex-police surplus of, general issue Kevlar vests. No, I don't have any civilian US gas masks, Jose. I've got US masks because I've got an M3 diaphragm mask. I've got a M40, an M17A2, an M9A1, an MCU2P. That's probably it. On M50 as well. That's a good way to get blocked in the turtle, because I've already explained this to you several times this stream. People ask me to get stuff down, I get it down to show them, and then I just pop it down, and it makes it messy. As I've said several times this stream, I really need to clean it even more than usual today, because if you look, I need to hide Inside the Third Reich by Albert Speer, because YouTube will go ape shit if they see a swastika on the book. And no, I'm not a Nazi, but I do enjoy reading history books, and it's not even Mein Kampf, but I don't actually have a copy of Mein Kampf. I've never read it. I did try reading Mein Kampf, and it's really badly written. Hitler was a shit author. Anyway, if you look up there, see that there's loads and loads of spaces on that shelf. It's because where I was getting satchels down to check for the mask I was posting earlier. The US did have civilian masks. They had them in World War II. They had them in the Cold War, although they didn't mass produce them in the Cold War. Let's not start the political name calling, please. Is This Is England the old film? It's quite a good film. This Is England, the one about like the skinhead kid, or is that a different thing? If it's the one that had like a little kid in, and then it's like the gang, but then like the dickhead guy joins them. That's quite a good film, isn't it? Oh, my stomach's rumbling now. I'm getting quite hungry. But we're having a big dinner tonight, so I'm actually like not eating much today, so I've got an appetite for this evening. I'll get rid of that comment because it sounded to me like he was insinuating I was a paedophile. If he wasn't, then apologies for you getting blocked. But don't make comments about like little kids or whatever on a stream. It's a bit weird. God Mapping says I'm new. Welcome. What, as in a cup of tea? I've not had any tea today. I've had some coffee. I might make a cup of tea after the stream, and I'll have one of the Stroop waffles with it that Hype sent me. Oh yes, Steve, because obviously for like insurance and tax stuff, I have to have an inventory on it. But the problem is it's not like I can easily get a full list up really quickly. Martha Gray says, "Oh God, laughing my ass off." What? Yeah, I've had one. My dad had one. I had all of the cream sort of vanilla-y sort of ones, but they were quite broken from postage. So it was more like just eating little chunks of Yeah, Mark Felton has a great channel. The main one, Brandon, the reviewer, is that everybody has a posh voice. They don't. That's actually a fake accent that was invented basically by the BBC. Sort of pronunciated English or whatever they call it to make it easier for people to understand. But it's not real English. People don't actually talk like that unless they're kind of doing radio or like television stuff. And then again, all right, I'm glad to have you, guard. But yeah, then again, a lot of people don't actually, No, that's for corona, not pregnancy. Oh, you've been deleted anyway. Not by me. But yeah, as I said before, the corona test is really straightforward and simple. So for anybody that's worried about getting a test over here, don't be worried about it. Just go and get it done for the sake of everybody else. It's literally just a case of you drive into a thing, they stick a swab in your mouth and then up your nose. You get your results basically the next day. That's literally it. There's no weird like blood samples being taken, all this sort of weird shit you've heard people complaining about online with it. It's straightforward and easy. Get it done for the sake of other people. You can see one behind me, guard mapping. I'm just going to warn you, that's a very easy way people get blocked on here if they see stuff in the background and then ask if I've got them. If you want to know, that's a Russian riot helmet. I can't remember the exact name of it without looking it up because it's just basically a load of letters. I've got a British Mark 1 riot helmet and a British Mark 3 riot helmet, and I have a riot visor that can be installed on my Mark 6 helmet. So I've currently got the Mark 6A because the Mark 6A offers better protection. Yeah, it functions fine without it, Marcus. That is literally a completely pointless thing. I think what that secondary filter is apparently for is just to catch sweat. It's like a sweat collecting pad. Even though that's awful, why didn't they just invent a drainage channel where that would go? Because what ends up happening with that is your sweat just collects in it, and then you're getting like lots of sweaty sort of stagnant water in the bottom of the mask, where you can't easily remove and clean it. It's like, what was Scott thinking when they designed that? No, it doesn't go over the exhale valve, Marcus. It's literally pointless. It just literally sits in a bit of the chin of the mask, and that's all it does. It's like a bit of plastic with a sort of HEPA material in it that just doesn't go over anything. It is literally a pointless piece of shit in the mask that has no purpose. Again, you'll get people who really defend the GSR claiming it has lots of purposes, but they can never tell you what it is. And the fact that it, doesn't block the inhale valves, or doesn't filter the inhale valves, doesn't filter the exhale valves, water isn't filtered through it. When you go for the drinking tube, it's pointless. If I stuck a random pad in a mask, it doesn't make it a feature. Favorite Russian mask? Out of the old ones, the Shums. Out of the modern ones, hard to say. The PMKS looks really good, but I've not got one. The modern PPM88 that Hype sent me is pretty good. Let me look up the name of that. It's a Briz 4301M. That's pretty good. The Zelensky mag is all right, although I don't like the straps on it. Yeah, again, the problem, as we said before, with the GSR, although they fixed a lot of the issues now, was basically it's an M50 made really cheaply because Britain wanted an M50, but then they also didn't want to pay the price for an M50. So they said to Scott, can you basically make us a copy of this mask, but cheaper? Like the reason the SA-80 project went wrong. Oh, we want a gun like this, but make it cheaper, as cheap as possible, cheap out on everything. It's all these problems that Britain's had with lots of stuff that goes wrong. is because basically rather than stuff being made to a good quality standard, it's make it as cheap as possible. Because they're whingy little expletives, Brandon the reviewer. Are you looking at those? If you're looking at those are Radiacs. Canadian Radiac trainer, British Mark II Radiac, British MD3 Radiac. I don't have an M65Z. Apparently the M65Z is better than the standard M65, but I'm not a massive fan of the standard M65. So for me, it'd have to be quite a bit better to be a really good mask. No, got the test. I came out negative, which is the result you want. Right, so you say that's not a bed, but okay. Next to the blue backpack thing. Right, so you're looking at the helmet cover, I assume, the UN helmet cover. You're looking at that. Looking at that. That is a vehicle-mounted dosimeter reader and ionizing radiation detector. That is a personal, basically, radiation alarm. I think you're probably looking at that, aren't you? That's a vehicle-based dosimeter system. So it's basically a very big thing that tells you if you're being exposed to radiation. As cool as that is, it is pretty useless just due to the massive size of it and the fact it still doesn't have a very good range on it. That's bloody cheap, isn't it, Hype? £4 a mask. Oh, and thanks again, Relapsey Panda. I really appreciate it. Well, these look like binoculars. I don't think you'd see very well through them, though. It does have a very irritating alarm on it. Yeah. I can see why you say it looks like binoculars, but yeah. If you want to hear how annoyingly loud this is, right, if I flick that on at the moment, the alarm will go off. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put onto radiation detection mode just for a laugh. So you can see a little light in there that tells you it's working, as in, you know, it's reading, ready to pick up radiation. That is quite a cool little light in there. It's like one of those really old sort of... It's almost like a Nixie tube, actually, saying that. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a headphone warning coming up. So we'll flick the buzzer on. We'll flick the ionization chamber, the plasma ball on, which hasn't turned on. Or is it I flicked the wrong switch on? There we go. Right, so the plasma ball's on. See the plasma ball? Then watch this. Yeah. If you just want to hear it again. I like this thing as much as it's really pointless. I mean, something this big and heavy just to basically buzz if you're being ionized. But, yeah. It's a cool thing just because it makes a really, really loud buzzing noise. But yeah, you'd definitely hear that, wouldn't you, if you're being exposed to ionizing radiation? It's one of those alarms. It's not like a little tiny beeping one. Apparently some communist nation on a firing range, but I don't have much info on it. It was just basically sold by a guy selling loads of old communist block signs. I was like, oh, there's one with a gas mask on it. It's probably Matej, just something they've soaked some of the filter medium in. If you mean office as much as it's got a PC in here and I do video editing in here and I do these videos and all that shit on here and reply to emails in here, yes. Is it an organised office? No. As I've said before, when I eventually get around to moving out, I definitely want to have the objective right from the get-go of keeping everything very minimalist and tidy, and then all the other junk can be stored here. You know, and then what I can do is just have a few items I really want to have sort of in the background. You know, I'd definitely rather have a minimalist space than this one. But again, the problem is, like I said before, every time I've tidied this up and it looks really neat behind me, what happens is I get sent more stuff. Even if I don't buy stuff, people send me stuff, which is nice, don't get me wrong, but then it has to go somewhere. Or the problem is that people say, can you get this down to show us on the stream? So I get something down, and then, of course, somebody says, can you get this down? And then after a stream's finished, I don't always put stuff back in a proper sort of tidy place. The tip 32 or something, type 32 something. There's a mask I've got in a can here. I think this might be a French C39 or whatever it was called. This one, C38, C39. I can't remember. It's just I forgot this one was here. Let's check what mask's inside it. Ah, yeah, that's the French C38, whatever it's called. I can't even remember the bloody name of it now. Ah, yeah, C38 is a C38. Look how cheap these lenses are. Yeah, it's a Soviet respirator poster showing masks for civil defense. So yeah, there is a GP5 on there. Look, it's a GP5, GP5M. It's showing you how to measure your face for a GP5 there. The bottom ones are basically fallout protective masks. You know, it just filters the air coming in kind of masks. People over here like tea, Brandon, but also people drink coffee as well. I think it's just people like caffeinated drinks, but that's true all over the world. You know, you don't get people going, "Hey, I'd like some tea, please." You know, if people have tea, it's just in a mug, quite strong. Well, real people drink it strong, you know. If it's just like coffee, you just have some in a mug while you're working. Oh, basically around World War II time guard mapping, most nations that issued gas masks in cans all had that same can design, because it's literally, isn't it, just a can, basically a tin with a lid, and then the lid just has a system so you can't lose it, where it's basically strapped to the bottom of the case. You know, the German ones, the French ones, the Belgian ones, anybody who issued those, they're all pretty similar. There's a couple that are a bit more interesting in the sense they have an actual hinge with like a lock on it, you know, so you ratchet it down and you ratchet it up and unhinge it. They're a bit more sophisticated, but most of them are literally just a cord that holds the thing on so you don't lose it. Yeah, it was just a pretty standard old thing. The idea is you basically can't crush the mask by accident, because bear in mind, some old masks are pretty fragile. So by having it in quite a solid metal tin, you're not going to be able to basically sit on it or something like that. Yeah, well, interestingly, Nitrous, in World War II, British rations, it was considered more important to give troops cigarettes than food. Gives you an idea of combat stress, doesn't it? I know my granddad said after the first time he'd been in a firefight, I think he said he smoked like 30 cigarettes straight to stop from shaking. That's obviously World War II, but, you know, it gives you an idea of why soldiers love cigarettes so much. But again, it's the stuff like nicotine is actually pretty good for stopping you shaking, even though technically I think it will give you the shakes if you have too much of it, but never mind. It's like most drugs. There's probably a sweet spot of where they stop something happening and then take too much and it does the opposite effect. Right, I've got a load of comments just rushing in at once, so we'll see if I can answer some of them. Yeah, that sounds good, Ryan. I've never tried tea like that, but what's your budget, Brandon, and where are you? It's hard to recommend masks though at the moment just because of what's gone on with all the prices due to COVID. I like the old series of The Simpsons. Exactly, hype. Yeah, the closest you'd see to it, wasn't it, was sometimes when you could get certain newsreels at the cinema before films were put on, where they'd show actual like combat footage from stuff going on, but then it was still heavily propagandized anyway. But yeah, you'd maybe get some photos in a newspaper, and you'd maybe get a little film reel played in the cinema. That'd be literally all you'd see of real combat, other than, you know, maybe people in London seeing, you know, lots of other cities through like bombing, you know, seeing people get blown to pieces and buried in their houses. But, you know, for the most part, yeah, people didn't see the real thing until they saw the real thing. I think my granddad Nitro said he used to smoke wild woodbines, if that's what I could. Let me Google it. I know he went to just rolling his own later on to save money, and then when cigarettes got too expensive, he just quit entirely. Yeah, Woodbine cigarette. Here we go. I don't know if this is the one he had in rations, but I know he definitely smoked this for a very long time. So is it Woodbines? Woodbine is a British brand of cigarettes. As of 2019, owned and manufactured by Imperial Tobacco. Woodbine cigarettes are named after the Woodbine flowers. Woodbine was launched in 1888. In the Great War, the brand was cheap and popular in the earlier 20th century of the working class, as well as with the army men during the First and Second World War. So there you go. That's what they'd have smoked. Wild Woodbines. How good they were as a tobacco, I don't know. The really good British tobacco brand, and again, I don't encourage people to smoke, but when I used to smoke, the best shit was Dunhill. Interestingly, Stalin smoked Dunhill, which in both rolled up cigarettes and in his pipe. So, as much as the Soviets hated capitalism, they did like English tobacco. But Dunhill is very, very good, strong tobacco. But it's kind of that tobacco where a lot of people don't like it because it's too strong, almost like pure real tobacco. It's basically like if you get a strain of, coffee bean that's like really, really high in caffeine. No, I haven't actually got round to watching 1917 yet. Everybody I know who's watched it either thinks it's shit or really good. I've not seen anybody watch it go, yeah, it's all right, but not brilliant. Everybody's either like, no, it's total crap, or it was really good. I'll get around to watching it at some point. I've just not been in a rush to do it. I don't mind Herbie and Taste Lotus Pins. Obviously, like I said, I've quit smoking, but I quite like it with tobacco when you get kind of other flavors in it. Because the thing with real tobacco, at least compared to a lot of the crap that ended up in cigarettes later on, with all the chemicals added, is it always had like a raisiny fruit taste, didn't it, and smell to it? Because real tobacco essentially is a plant, so it actually has a plant. No, I don't actually have anything from World War One. I've only got a repro of a World War One gas mask. So that's it. I don't have any actual World War One stuff. I'll put it in the thing for you, Vern. But I think often they're just called Woodbine, like that, without the wild Woodbine on. What, the guy who does the ration videos, Nitrous, occasionally, but I'm not really all that into rations. I think I find it funny with his just more when he eats something so old, you're like, oh Christ, is he going to get botulism? Well, it was filmed in Lithuania, wasn't it, or Estonia, TTAM. But yes, I definitely have seen Chernobyl. Tim the Turtle stopped literally saying, show me this mask, show me that mask. See how much of a mess there is behind me? Remember, a lot of stuff isn't even stored in this room. That's one of the things that really annoys me when people keep saying, show me this, show me that, especially when it's not even handy. Yes, I've got a lot of Polish gas mask guard mapping. Look at my channel and watch my videos on Polish gas masks. I've got quite a lot. Corona tests are free over here, Joseph, because if they charge money for them, people wouldn't get tested, and that would be worse for the spread of the disease. So yeah, any sensible country has free testing, because if you charge people for testing, they won't get tested. The UK, I think, to begin with, did charge for testing, and then people said, right, I won't bother then, because, I'm not spending money to get a test. And, as much as I don't like a lot of selfishness with Corona, I can totally understand if people are being charged a lot of money for tests, they're just going to say no. No, they barely turn up, White Wolf, on eBay CT12s. Like I said, I was just very lucky when I got one for not very much money years ago, when I just kind of accidentally saw it pop up and I didn't know much about them at the time. Basically, think of FM12s turning up and then think of a much less produced model of the FM12. Yeah, like as Savannah says, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, mostly it's for answering questions in live streams. The problem with trying to show people stuff is you can see much better videos where there's a camera on a tripod. The lighting, hopefully all right, where I can show things from different angles properly and remember like all the history for them as best I can off the top of my head for the video. Where if you ask me a random question on a random item to get out and show you, it's going to be a bit difficult just in the stream along with lots of other stuff. Yeah, or if you wanted to, White Wolf, you could just pull the inside straw out of the FM12 And then you've literally got a CT12, except it's not obviously plastic sealed at the other end. Yeah, Tricks, again, that's not going to help stop the spread, is it? Because lots of people would say I could use that $46 on whatever else, food for my family, cigarettes, booze, gambling, you know. I'd certainly not say a lot of those things are good to spend your money on necessarily, or excessively spend your money on, but I think that's the way a lot of people would look at it. Best air gun I own, in my opinion. I've only got two. Well, I've got an air pistol and I've got a Red Rider, so technically I've got 4 air guns, if you don't count airsoft guns as air guns. I'm just going to say the BSA Hornet because of how cheap it is and reliable for its cheap price. What sort of setup, Apache Heli? As in computer setup, camera setup? What do you mean? Well, they're better guard mapping. So do I. I might go off in 5 to 10 minutes, just going to get him really hungry, and I need to space my eating out today before we have the big family dinner later on. So if I'm off in about 5 minutes, it's because I need to get a light lunch before it's too late to get it. Computer setup, right? Let me open DX Diag up, and I'll actually read you out the components because I can't even remember off the top of my head. It was like the best setup you could get at the time I bought it. Maybe not with GPU though, just because, you know, I only play stuff at 1080. Right, so does it say what's the motherboard is on here? I can't see where it says the motherboard, but the motherboard isn't that important. It was, you know, like a pretty decent motherboard, but not a super high-end one. Anyway, the processor is an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X, 12-core processors, so 24 total cores. If you consider them, you know, like the 12 real ones, 12 virtual cores. All right, Max. It's running at 3.8 gigahertz per core. I've got 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM. The GPU in there is a Radeon RX 5700 XT, which is more than good enough for everything I want. And I've got a couple of HDDs in there and SSDs. I'm not a massive fan of Kingsman. I've seen it. I thought it was the best Bond parody films. If you want to watch a Bond parody, is obviously Austin Powers. Sadly, over here, Class 2 instructor, full auto air rifles are totally banned. You can have airsoft guns, but if it's an air gun, like that actually shoots pellets, it's not allowed to be full auto as far as I'm aware. Yeah, the reason I mostly wanted a really good processor, Anonymous American, is for video rendering. With this current PC setup and everything, if I render a 10-minute 1080p video, it renders it in about 2 to 3 minutes. On my old PC, it had taken 20 to 30 minutes. So it gives you a massive idea of just how much time is saved in the rendering process. So now the bottleneck is actually the upload speed onto YouTube servers, not the amount of time it takes to render a video. And obviously with the old PC as well, you'd sometimes have a crash during the rendering process. So if you film a 20-minute video that's going to take an hour to render, and then after like 50 minutes of rendering it crashes, I'm not happy. No, I've built previous computers, Apache, but I just got this one built by CyberPower just because I had some money to spend. I was like, I just don't want any stress. I just want a brand new PC, all really good components, you know, delivered to my house. Here's the money, you know. It's a bit like an investment because I'm using it for like YouTube and other kind of online work stuff. So, but yeah, I'll be off in a couple of minutes. So if anybody's got important questions, get them in now. A big thank you to everybody that did donate because I got a couple of big donations on this one for sort of this sort of time in the afternoon. So I really do appreciate that. It does go very slowly towards my bunker that I want to buy. You know, the bunker is the goal I'm saving for now. I'll get sidetracked now and again buying stuff that I have to buy, you know, or if something turns up on eBay, I just can't resist. But for the most part, the bunker is what I am saving for. Best break barrel Anonymous American air rifle I've used was my friend's, what was the name of it? A Beeman RS Sport or something? It was one of those air guns that didn't have like loads and loads of good reviews online, but it was really, really bloody good to shoot. You know, it was spring, but such a smooth cocking action. Pretty much the full 12 foot-pounds muzzle velocity that you can get legally in the UK without having it registered as a firearm. Very smooth recoil for a spring gun. You know, you could put optics on it of any kind. It was a really nice air gun. You know, just the right amount of weight, quite nice wood furniture on it. Ask Hype, Fang Sterno. Not all of them, Matt Edge, for obvious reasons, because of the space. I would move the stuff I most want to have with me there. So I'd, you know, have it decorated to have quite a bit of Cold War sort of equipment in, but it would mostly be set up for practicality. Thank you, Marcus. Air guns are great for just plinking for hours, aren't they? Especially if you've got like a break barrel or something like a Daisy Red Rider, just because they're really fun and they're really, really cheap to shoot. As much as air rifle pellets, like everything else, goes up, you can buy a decent £100 air gun over here, you know, like air rifle. Get a break barrel one, or, you know, one with a cocking lever. You know, for £10, £20, buy loads and loads and loads of pellets and just plink cans all day long. And if you're, you know, if you're somebody who's got the land to do it, and you're the person that's inclined to, you know, like hunt, you know, the sort of vermin, sort of rodent type stuff that you're allowed to eat or whatever, like wood pigeons and things like that, you know, you can actually eat off of it as well with an air gun. What's the legality of it though, Class 2 Auto? Because, not Class 2 Auto, sorry, Class 2 Instructor. Because from what I've read before, it's a really big no-no area. So I'd be very, very suspect over how that falls under. Because from what I understand, if it's really, really, really low power, it's allowed. And if it's basically an airsoft gun, it's allowed. But for actual things like 177 or 22 shooting at a decent velocity, it seems to completely, you know, be in that region of very, very dodgy kind of thing. Yeah, Ross, if they're over 12 foot-pounds, they are classed as a Section 1 firearm, like normal rifles, not an air gun. There's certain things as well that make them not air guns, but like imitation, there's lots of weird grey areas to the law. 430 FPS isn't bad, but that's pretty similar to my actual airsoft rifle. That's 350 FPS when using 2mm BBs or 6mm BBs, whatever it is, 2 gram. Is it 6mm BBs? Yeah, I never bothered getting an airsoft license just because it's such a pain in the ass. And with Corona, there's certainly no airsoft at the moment. But here's the thing, Anonymous American. You don't need a license for airsoft guns. It's so retailers will sell you them full black. You know, because in America you have to have like a little orange thing on the end. Here, they can look exactly like real guns, but you have to have the thing to basically say I'm not an irresponsible person that's going to wave them around in the street. Anyway, see you everybody. It's been a good stream. I really enjoyed this one. Hope everybody has a good day. I won't be on, obviously, this evening. I won't be streaming tomorrow. Sunday evening, I'll hopefully be streaming. But, you know, it's not always guaranteed, because if I'm at work all day Sunday and I'm quite tired, you know, often I just want to go to bed quite early. Well, the fact that you'd be potentially arrested, Deagle, and put in prison for it, or fined a massive amount of money. There's nothing stopping you breaking the law, but if you break the law and get caught, you face the consequences of the law, don't you? That's all I'm going to say about people saying about doing illegal stuff. Anyway, cool. See you everybody. Have a good day. Goodbye.